Hello, and welcome to our session on using real-world scenarios for teaching employability skills. My name is Denise Dubois, and I will be the speaker for today's webinar. We'll begin by defining just what soft skills are, and we will be sharing some very important soft skill statistics with you. Then we have 6 different scenarios from a variety of pathways that we would like to share that you can go ahead and try in your own programs. After that, we're going to go through some classroom activities that involve the use of scenarios, and we're going to introduce you to 2 different soft skill programs by Realityworks. And then we will end the webinar with some additional free resources and a Q&A. So first of all, let's define soft skills. We define soft skills or employability skills such as listening, collaborating with others, presenting ideas, and communicating with team members. They're all highly valued in the modern workplace. We know that strong soft skills ensure a productive, collaborative, and healthy work environment. And all of these are vital attributes for organizations in an increasingly competitive world. So now let's take a look at some important soft skill research. Now we dug into the research and we came upon many studies, study after study, that showed the importance of soft skills. And we chose just a few that stood out to us. So there was a research conducted and published in 2022 by Harvard University that concluded that 85% of job success comes from having well-developed soft and people skills. And only about 15% of job success comes from having technical skills or those hard skills. Another research study from the Talent Conference at 2020 Society for Human Resource Management shared this statistic. 97% of employers surveyed said that soft skills were either as important or more important than technical skills. And then another global talent survey from 2019 said 92% of professionals and hiring managers agree that candidates with strong soft skills are increasingly important. In fact, it could make or break the hiring of the perfect candidate, as 89% felt that bad hires typically had poor soft skills. Now here's another one, hard skills versus soft skills. 77% of companies say soft skills are just as important as those technical skills. So we know there are tons of sources of statistics that speak to the importance of employability skills. And think about, in our CTE courses, are we teaching soft skills as much as we are teaching those technical skills? Now, there are many studies that speak to the effectiveness of those employability skills training to help students increase their soft skills. And I found this quote and I thought it was a great quote that really sums it up nicely. CTE programs can provide students with the soft skills that are essential for success, such as teamwork, problem solving, and communication. Students that participate in CTE programming are exposed to additional learning experiences, and they set themselves apart from their peers with marketable skills. So now we would like to talk about the benefits of scenario-based learning and then give you 6 different examples of real-world scenarios to use in the classroom. So first of all, what are the benefits of scenario-based learning? Well, there are certainly many. Number 1, it will create those sticky learning experiences, meaning it will help your students remember what they've learned. And it certainly facilitates problem solving in learners. It will put your students in those real world situations and they have to solve and think through what they would do on the job if. Next, it provides guided exploration for learners. So the learner will be, you as a facilitator will talk them through the scenario and they will learn from you that guidance. Next, it provides a safe practice zone to gain proficiency and mastery. Students don't have to be afraid of taking a risk. It's a safe environment and they can practice and practice. And even if they fail, they can try again. And lastly, it allows learners to make mistakes and through feedback, reinforce the right approach. So you're there to help them, to guide them, to facilitate the problem solving using the scenarios. And all of that rolled together makes scenario-based learning a very powerful tool to help teach important soft skills. So now we're going to introduce some of the scenarios that I'm going to share today that you could take and try out in your programs. We have scenario-based cards. They're a soft skill, and they focus on pathway-specific real-world scenarios, 19 different soft skills in each card deck, and we have 17 different pathways to choose from. And each scenario includes the scenario itself. There are key discussion question also, and then points of view to consider. All the scenarios were actually written by subject matter experts in the field. And a few of the pathways we're going to share today are some from ag, childcare, nursing, welding, and more. And again, you can try one or try all of them with your students, and they're each one going to focus on a different soft skill. So the first one up today is going to be from our ag scenario card deck that focuses specifically on the skill of flexibility. Now let's take a look. While you're feeding calves, your boss comes up to you and asks if you can help in the parlor because one of your coworkers had to leave suddenly to get a sick child from school. You complain to the boss that you do not have time to fill in because you have to finish feeding the calves. So he should go ask another person. Again, this is not a very long scenario, but it's very focused, and it gives the students different points of view and some key questions that you could be asking. Our second scenario today comes from the pathway of welding, and this one will focus specifically on the soft skill responsibility. And that's a really big, important soft skill, no matter what career or occupational area you're in. So here we go. The guys you work with keep talking about fringe benefits of the job and how they are the only way they can stay employed due to the wages in the area. And you notice that some work on art projects to sell on the side, others collect scrap materials to sell, while others go as far as cutting parts for smokers and trailers to build at home. You are sure that the company knows of these activities, but feel like asking would single you out within the group. What is your responsibility to the company? And you can see how something like this could really bring forth some interesting discussion as a whole group, small group, think, pair, share. And then, of course, you could always turn those key questions into a writing activity. Our third scenario comes from the nursing therapeutic services pathway. And this one focuses specifically on time management. And any nurse can tell you how critical the skill is in a clinic or hospital setting. So Ethan, a nurse on a surgical floor, has 5 patients, and he is 1 hour into his shift. 2 patients have just come back from surgery and need frequent assessments. Another is receiving blood, which also needs to be monitored. He reaches out for help from the nursing assistant, but she is too busy. He hasn't been in yet to check on the other 2 patients who need their morning medications. So another way you could use this as a wrap-up or a review activity at the end of a lesson where you've introduced and talked about the importance of time management. Again, those key questions are really important to help your students apply their time management skills as well as critical thinking. Our fourth scenario today comes from our sports medicine card deck. And we know that scenarios are a great way to get your students to interact with each other and the content. And a situation like this one here on communication would be perfect to use in an athletic trainer course or even as a health occupations career exploration lesson. Now, sometimes it's fun to have your students try out their acting skills. So here's the communication scenario. James is working as a senior physical therapist in a sports medicine clinic. His patient, Gwen, has been receiving therapy for a shoulder strain from her part-time job as a yoga instructor. At the start of each visit, James asks Gwen how her shoulder's been feeling. Now, Gwen invariably launches into an enthusiastic response that she appears to believe sounds highly professional and technical, but in fact makes little sense. In an effort to avoid alienating or insulting Gwen, James is avoiding confronting her about her factually incorrect accounts, but he is concerned that his chart notes will be incomplete and his management of the case could suffer. You could assign students different roles, one of the person in the scenario, one of the patient, and then have them act it out in front of the class. And then after the scene is done, you could ask those key questions to generate a class-wide discussion. Our next scenario comes from the teaching and training pathway and focuses on the soft skill of teamwork. And we know that early childhood or childcare related careers fall into two clusters, human services and education and training. But no matter what, we know teamwork is critical. So here we go. You are the lead teacher in a 2-year-old classroom at a childcare center. Your center director has told you you will be getting a new co-teacher named Amelia. She is experienced and educated, so you are excited to have her in your classroom. The expectation for any new employee is for them to have a week of training in a new classroom. It is the responsibility of the lead teacher to train the new employee in the routines and responsibilities expected in the classroom. As the week goes on, you have tried to teach Amelia how to do everything that you do. The way you run your classroom works well, so you would like to have things continue this way. Amelia seems to have other ideas. She keeps talking about how she did things in her other classroom and is repeatedly asking if she can try different things. The children in your care are getting confused and are misbehaving. You're feeling frustrated and irritated. This new teaching team is never going to work if Amelia can't do things the way she's taught. You decide to let her do things her way and see how badly she fails. So there's an awful lot going on in this scenario. So a lot of key questions to work through and also points of view to consider in this one. Another way you could use this scenario is divide your class into small groups after the scenario is read. Have each small group go through the series of key questions, coming up with answers, and then you can have your whole class come back together and share some thoughts on those key questions provided. Now, our last scenario we're going to share from our pathway cards comes from our Culinary card deck, and it focuses specifically on the art of listening. Now, listening is more than hearing. It's really focusing on what the person is saying and thoughtfully processing the information. So here's the situation. Jenny is a hostess at the restaurant you manage. A couple approaches her and lets her know that there will be 6 people in their party, but one is in a wheelchair. So they will need a table with some extra space if there is one available. When Jenny gets ready to seat the party, she begins leading them through the crowded tables to the back of the restaurant, even though there's a table available with more space closer to the door. The family becomes frustrated and asks to speak with you, the manager. They complain that the hostess hasn't listened to their specific concerns and requests. Jenny explains to you she was trying to seat them in a specific section because the server hadn't had as many customers that evening. You've had issues with Jenny ignoring requests from customers in the past. So again, this could be used as an assessment tool if you wanted. This card or scenario could be shared at the conclusion on a listening lesson. Students could be asked to answer the key questions as the application part of the information that they've just learned on listening in a lesson devoted to that specific soft skill. So we've just shared 6 examples of scenarios from a variety of career pathways. While these are ready to use, you could also create some of your own. You could ask students to create scenarios even based on some of their own work and life experiences. So now here are a few activities that teach soft skills that could be used in any CTE program. So the first one we're calling the Wrong Way, Right Way Skit. Now, sometimes a bad example is an even better teacher than a good one. So here you would share the 20 soft skills chart with your class. Then you would divide your class into small groups. Have each group choose one or more skills from the infographic above. Then give each group about 20 minutes or so to talk and think about their assigned skills. They can look up the word in the dictionary, they can talk about personal experiences, or even go online for examples. But once they feel they've got a clear understanding of their skill as a group, have them come up with a good way to show and explain it to their classmates using a wrong way and also a right way in 2 different scenarios. And doing this activity will practice soft skills like creativity, communication, and critical thinking are just a few of the things that they would be using in an activity like this. The time management challenge. We all have days when our list of tasks is huge and the amount of time we have to complete them just isn't there. So when time is tight and your agenda is packed, you've got to prioritize tasks and work efficiently. So this activity will give your students the opportunity to practice just that. Here's the scenario. They have a long list of tasks to complete in a limited time frame, and this will require them to work together as a group. So you'd make a list of tasks on chart paper, and you would assign point values to each job. It could be pathway specific, or it could be just in general. Let's say, do 25 jumping jacks, each for 5 points, make up a nickname for each member of the group for 5 points, and so on. You have to make sure that your list is long enough for the tasks to take up more than 10 minutes. Then divide your students into groups of perhaps 5 or 6 and give them 10 minutes to collect as many points as they can by deciding which tasks to perform. Now, a debriefing session is essential with this game. You have to guide your students to think about how they made their decisions, which group dynamics came into play, and how they determined the value of each task. Now, as I said before, you could make a task list that ties specifically to your CT pathway. For example, if you're a FACS teacher teaching a culinary course, you could have a list of tasks like stir something for 5 points, cut something up for 5 points, eat something, 10 points, wash a dish, and so on. Or for health sciences, your tasks could be, take a blood pressure, apply a bandage, do a skin assessment, and so on. But again, something like this, they will be practicing negotiation, critical thinking, communication, time management, and more. Now, there are many career and technical student organizations like FFA, HOSA, FCCLA, which have competitive events that could involve the use of scenarios for practicing soft skills as well as hard skills. So if you have an active CTSO chapter from perhaps FCCLA, here are 2 different STAR events in particular to take a closer look at. There is one called Interpersonal Communications, and in this one, it's an individual or team event that recognizes participants who use facts or related occupations and skills, and you apply communication techniques, and you develop a project designed to strengthen communication in a chosen category. So that's direct, communication is a hugely important soft skill. There's another competition called Job Interview. And in that one, an individual student, or it's an individual event where they participate in an interview and they communicate a personal understanding of job requirements. So you could create a mock interview scenario for practice for that particular CTSO event. HOSA is no different. It also has an interviewing skills competition. It's listed under their leadership skills. So again, if you do a mock interview, that's a great way to prepare them for communicating in that environment. And FFA literally has dozens of skill areas that could lend themselves to the use of scenarios for practice. The one we've got on the screen here is an example of a networking activity that uses scenarios right in the competition. Participants are given a networking scenario, and they're expected to formulate a 2 to 3 minute extemporaneous response to 1 or more judges. And for this, scenarios may include, but aren't limited to, things like a meal function, a mixer, career show, elevator pitch. So again, CTSOs, you can really help your students prepare for those competitive events by using scenarios. So now let's take a look at how to use scenarios to teach some technical skills. We've talked a lot about the use of scenarios to teach soft skills, but you can also use scenarios to role play and teach really important technical skills as well. And here are just a few examples of using scenarios to teach technical skills along with soft skills. Now, first of all, let's take a look at health science. We know that health science has used the power of scenarios with standardized patients for years to help teach key nursing skills. Sometimes your scenario will include perhaps the use of a simulator or a hands-on resource as well. So in the photos here, you can see examples of 2 different ways to learn technical skills using simulators and scenarios. Now there's the first photo that you see on the left is using a wearable auscultation trainer on a standardized patient. You could create any scenario you want, and you could have one student be the nurse actually learning how to perform auscultation for a specific type of patient, and then your students could switch roles. Now, the added benefit of a wearable simulator is that the student is also practicing the soft skill of patient communication. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see our bariatric mannequin that could really be used for a wide variety of scenarios to teach and practice all sorts of nursing or CNA skills. You could set up a scenario with your students working as CNAs, maybe in a nursing home. Give them a scenario where they have to perform a bed bath with this patient or do pericare. And you can see where they get the hands-on practice with the simulator, but they would also be able to practice patient communication skills, teamwork, and so forth. Now, if you have one of our RealCare babies, you could come up with a wide variety of scenarios that give your students practice performing infant care skills such as feeding and burping. You could even create scenarios with small groups of students in a childcare center setting where one student could be the parent, one could be the center director, and another could be the infant teacher, and practice parent communication as well as infant caregiving skills. You have to just be creative, and we know teachers are creative. Really, the sky's the limit when it comes to scenario use. If you happen to have our shaken baby simulator, you could also use that to teach swaddling and soothing skills, also needed for childcare workers. You could create a scenario where an infant will just not stop crying, and the childcare worker must properly swaddle and rock the infant to calm it down. So you could also use some of our agriculture products. Here's our canine vet trainer, which teaches a whole host of vet technical hard skills while crafting a scenario where the vet is interacting with colleagues or even with a customer. So it doesn't just have to be human patients. It can also be a vet tech type of scenario. So Realityworks has 2 different scenario-based soft skill programs that we would like to introduce you to if you are not familiar. And these are ready to use. Very easy to use right out of the box for any CT program. So we have an employability skills program that addresses 20 different soft skills. It comes with teacher guide, presentation slides. You do get a general set of those scenario cards, similar to what I shared earlier. There's pre and post assessment. We've got all sorts of things built into this, but it's just a great way to be able to integrate the use of soft skill instruction if you want to strengthen what you're already doing in your classroom. And this particular program comes in a print-based, but if you prefer, we also have a brand new online course format as well, if that works better for the way you would like to implement a program like this. But it teaches 19 different soft skills. And you can see we've got some really important ones here. Well, they're all important, but certainly communication, problem solving, critical thinking, listening. Some of the ones we've already spoken about: time management, stress management, interpersonal skills. There is one specific lesson devoted to each of these. Students learn about it. They apply it in anywhere from 2 to 4 activities. And then, of course, you have the scenario card where they can walk in the shoes of someone dealing with this specific soft skill on the job. So here again, you can see all of the different pieces for the second program. This is our leadership soft skills program. And similar to the one I just shared with you, this has 18 different soft skills. So between the 2 programs, you've got 35 different soft skills. In this one, there are lessons, step-by-step instructions. You get student workbooks, and again, a whole set of scenario cards. But in this specific one, it focuses on youth leadership development. And we know that that's very important. And this one, again, is both print version, and there's also an online course version available, whichever suits your program. And here is a list of the 18 different leadership soft skills that are a part of this program. There's one specific lesson devoted to each of these leadership soft skills. They put students into the role of someone as a leader within an occupation or organization, and they are learning about this skill, and then they are actually applying it in the lesson as well. So we know that helping students become college and career ready is really a primary goal for our programs, and developing our youth leaders is another. So this is just a really easy way to ensure that career readiness is a part of your program, and really by introducing a soft skills specific to leadership is a great way to help your students. So as we promised, we have some additional free resources that we would like to point out. First of all, we'd like to give a mention of Realityworks Webinars. Similar to this one, we have a whole webinar schedule on our website. You can go out and take a look. There's different categories of topics. We record everything, we archive it, and you can go back and watch it on your own. But go ahead, sign up. Even if you can't attend, you will get the recording and the slides, and you'll be able to get access to all that great content that we do every month for our webinar schedule. There are also some free resources for your classroom available at the following links. The first is a series of posters and infographics that you can print out on a wide variety of career-related topics. And then also we have many free career exploration lessons, and there are some specific on soft skill lessons. So if you want even more than some of the things we shared today, you could go out to this link and you could access a handful of free soft skill lessons that, again, you could download and try out in your program. A few other things we want to mention. We try to be very busy on our social media. We have a blog, and we frequently have guest writers. We talk about product launches and share new best practices, so that's worth checking out. We also have a Facebook and Twitter account that we like to be very active on as well. At this point, we're going to open it up for any questions that you might have.